It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Oh my God, this freaking team. Can this team go up by 6 runs and just make it easy? Can they do that? Can they just make it easy for us? Or does it always have to be a freaking disaster? Hold on one second. I forgot to plug in my microphone, so you may not be hearing me very well right now. Give me 1 second.
Turn your mic on.
All right. Does it sound better now?
No.
Oh, no? I think I have to change it. I'm sorry. I was away. Remember, I was doing a Rico from Vermont, so everything had to change. So I have to, change the settings or something like that. I got to go look for microphones, audio. Hold on 1 second. All right, here we go. Watch this. This is going to be magic. It's going to sound amazing.
Boom. How does it sound now? Does it sound better?
Boom. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so the last Rico Brogna was from Vermont because I'm on vacation this week. This Rico Brogna is back in my home office because we have a break before our vacation continues down in Washington, D.C. and Raleigh, North Carolina. But let's get to the stuff that matters. This freaking team and this freaking game. When you have a 6-run lead in the 10th inning, can you make it easy? Or do you have to make us sweat like that? Because we all had visions of Kurt Suzuki. And I'm glad Gary Cohen brought it up because every single Met fan who's watching this game and watching them build a 6-run lead and watching Tyler J slowly rip it apart piece by piece. And then, we're relying on Reed Garrett as if the guy's Rob Dibble in his prime. I mean, let's be honest. Reed Garrett has been an up and down roller coaster. But we all had visions of another meltdown in Washington, D.C. And let me tell you why winning this game felt so important and really does feel like a major, major sigh of relief. On the last Rico, if you missed it, I'll summarize very quickly. You could feel the criticism coming of the Mets partying on Friday night, and that somehow leading directly to them losing on Saturday and Sunday, which is nonsense, but you could feel that kind of BS coming. If you lose again on Monday to the Washington Nationals, and by the way, when they're down 2-0 in the 6th inning, we thought they were going to lose a different way. When Tyrone Taylor misreads a ball in right field on a base hit, we thought they were going to lose another way. When Jake Diekman's throwing one up the first base line, we thought they were going to lose another way. But no matter how they lost this game, whether it was blowing a 6-run lead in the bottom of the 10th inning, whether it was Jake Diekman's error or Tyrone Taylor's misplay or the bats doing nothing for the first 5.5 innings, this was going to be, in my opinion, a damaging loss. 3-game losing streak was going to feel like a boulder falling on our heads for a few reasons. One of which being what happened Friday night and the fact that they blew Saturday's game and they lost a horrible game on Sunday. So I sat there watching this game on a Monday night with a lot of anxiety, more anxiety than I usually have for a regular season game. That's cool, right, Jed? Jed's getting a kick out of this because he's with me right now and he's watching the podcast on YouTube. Now, don't make it too loud because then there'll be crazy feedback. So keep it quiet because you can see me talking and hear me talking. So you don't need the sound on your tablet. All right, there you go. He got a kick out of that. But this game felt important. It felt like one of those regular season games. I've said this before that weigh a little bit more than others. And there were so many aspects of this game that felt as if the Mets are going to find a way to lose this. And it's one thing to lose to the Houston Astros. Look, the Mets didn't get the Houston Astros hot. The Houston Astros have been hot for a long time. So I hate to do this, and maybe I can do this because it's been 24 hours, so I feel a little bit better doing this. The Houston Astros took those games. The Houston Astros are one of those elite teams that's waking up. Maybe you look at Saturday and Sunday, and as frustrated as we were and are, you tip your hat to the Houston Astros. I ain't tipping my hat to this Nationals team. If they lose this game on Monday, this game that they had so many opportunities to blow, there was going to be no tipping of hats. It was going to be a bad freaking loss. And what drove me nuts, and I'll start at the end, and then we'll go back and look at some of the earlier aspects of this game, is I get that Tyler J is a lefty. I'm a lefty. Okay, I throw with my left hand. That does not mean that after, hold on, let me count this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 batters in which even in the outs that Tyler J got, the 2 strikeouts, it was like a surgery session. You have to throw a million pitches to get those outs. He issues the leadoff walk, which cannot happen to C.J. Abrams. He gives up the RBI double to Jesse. You're a winker, a wanker, a wanker. It's a wonker, a wanker. That's what they say in England. He gives up the double to Jesse Winker. He gives up the double to Vargas. I get that James Wood is making his major league debut and he's a lefty. Why the hell was Tyler J still in this game? And look, I'm not telling you again, Reed Garrett is, I'm trying to think of random closers in my head in their prime. He's not Goose Gossage in his prime, but I would have rather have seen Garrett come in one batter early where he has a little bit of a margin for error. You come in with the tying run on deck, which is officially a save situation. You have a little bit of a margin for error. Instead, why does Tyler J have to face James Wood? Why? Because he's a lefty? I'm a lefty. Does that mean you think I'm going to get James Wood out? Does that mean you think I'm going to get any left-hander out? Does that mean if you're Carlos Mendoza, you need to leave Tyler J, who's literally only here to eat up innings? You got to keep him in to face a lefty? Come on. I didn't like that. And then you've got Reed Garrett, who, I get it. Like, who else do you want coming in to try to save the game in the 10th inning? Like, they don't have a lot of great options right now. Dednell Nunez is their best option. And look, I thought for the most part, Dednell Nunez pitched very, very well. He got screwed by bad defense by Tyrone Taylor. But outside of Dednell Nunez, I mean, who you want? Did you want Ty Adcock to pitch the 9th inning? Or Adam Ottavino to pitch the 9th inning? So I do agree that Reed Garrett gives us the best option. But even he comes in and immediately gives up an RBI single to Keibert Ruiz. This really felt like you're watching your house burn down. And you're doing the right thing because you're hosing it down, and Reed Garrett is the hose, but it's a very weak hose. And there's a chance that the hose ain't going to work, and the whole house is going to burn down, and we're all going to be dead. Like, that's a possibility, but the hose gives you the best chance. And Reed Garrett, unfortunately, in this moment, gives the Mets their best chance. I'm just so thankful they won this game. So thankful they won this game, because that would have been another game they would have lost, in which in our brains and our warped minds, we would have said, well, if Edwin Diaz was healthy, that's a win. Just imagine, forget the last 2 games. Just imagine this game against Washington and how differently it's managed if Edwin Diaz is the closer. And that's not to say that Edwin Diaz definitely comes in and dominates and gets 3 outs. Look, Edwin Diaz had been good since he'd come back from the injured list, but he still had a lot to prove. So I'm not trying to act like he would have been, missed the lockdown, but it just changes the way everything is managed. Now, as far as the rest of this game is concerned, early on it was concerning because they couldn't figure out Mackenzie Gore. I mean, Mackenzie Gore, who the Mets beat up about a month ago, was very, very sharp. He was helped out by some pretty good defense. I mean, how about that double play that was turned by Nick Senzel in the 1st inning after Francisco Lindor began the game with a hit, which he's had such a knack for. He has been so great at beginning games by doing something offensively. The problem is if you don't drive him in, it goes for naught. And that's what happened when Bader got robbed on the double play. And then even C.J. Abrams made a great play robbing Tyrone Taylor. We saw a lot of really good defense early. How about the play by Jose Iglesias turning the double play in the 2nd inning? David Peterson got into trouble, put a couple of guys on base, and he got Nick Senzel to ground into a double play. So we saw a lot of tight defense early. We saw the Met bats fail with a great opportunity in the 4th inning after Mark Vientos ripped that double and Tyrone Taylor struck out. And I do have to point this out. I know that, and I said this the first day when Taylor was playing right field, and Tyrone Taylor has played very well in right field. He deserves, as of the way he's playing, most of the opportunities in right field until Starling Marte comes back. I do admit that, despite his miscue in right field, which we'll get to. But I still don't fully understand why Carlos Mendoza needs to break up Mark Vientos and Francisco Alvarez with Tyrone Taylor. In this lineup, he had Vientos 5, Taylor 6, Alvarez 7. On the homestand, he had Alvarez 5, Taylor 6, Vientos 7. Like, what's the thinking here? You want to make the lineup deeper? Look, Tyrone Taylor's playing well. I mean, that's fine, but don't you want your more feared hitters hitting back-to-back? It's not even a lefty-righty thing. And I think where it's frustrating and where it jumps out at you is like the fourth inning. When you get the double by Mark Vientos and you have second and third, 2 outs at the time they're down 2-0, and instead of Francisco Alvarez, who's such a clutch hitter, you've got Tyrone Taylor. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. David Peterson had that very rocky third inning, and it all starts with a walk. It always does with this Met pitching staff. When he walked C.J. Abrams, he gave up the base hit to Joey Meneses ahead of the count, and then another big-time double play turned by that Lindor-Iglesias combo, which I got to tell you, am I the only one who doesn't want to see that every day? I phrased that wrong. Am I the only one who wants to see that every day? Forget Jeff McNeil's limp bat. He did have an infield hit in this game, but went 1 for 5. Forget the limp bat for a second. And remember, he was playing left field. Just for his defense, Jose Iglesias needs to play every day at second base. Plus, he's the king of the OMG. He's helped spark this team with that dopey song that I still have in my head. But he is so smooth turning double plays. There was that double play they didn't turn, in which instead of kind of holding up at second base, he kind of runs through the bag and almost turned it. If it wasn't for the speed of the base runner, I think he would have turned another incredible double play. So Jeff McNeil can find his at-bats in the outfield, which I've said before, but just based on defense, Jose Iglesias needs to play second base. Oh, yeah, he's hitting, including the home run late in the game. But after the Mets failed in that fourth inning opportunity, even with David Peterson settling down, and to his credit, he really did, because he went out and retired 11 in a row between the end of the third inning and early in the seventh inning. And pitching into the seventh inning is like a freaking party if you're a New York Met. I mean, when does that happen? I know Luis Severino did it recently, but anytime you see a Met starting pitcher pitch into the seventh inning, that is a cause for celebration. But down 2-0 with 2 outs and a runner on second in the sixth inning, even though they got Mackenzie Gore out of the game because his pitch count was at 104, it felt as if, this is honestly the way I felt. I always try to tell you how I'm feeling during a game, not just, oh, yeah, I always thought we were going to win, because that's a load of crap, especially in this game. This felt like, oh, the calendar turned to July. The Mets are going to have a quiet offensive game. Because even in the games they haven't won, like the loss on Saturday, like the loss on Sunday, they're scoring runs. So this game, even with Gore handing the ball off to Derek Law in the sixth inning, it felt like one of those really frustrating 2-1 losses, 3-2 losses, something of that nature. And major credit goes to Mark Vientos, because I know that Francisco Alvarez will get all the love, and I'm about to give that to him. But Mark Vientos in a 2-0 game with a runner on second and 2 outs and behind in the count to Derek Law, got one of those really underrated big hits. Because that RBI single not only makes it a 2-1 game still early in the sixth inning, but it extends the inning and it allows Tyrone Taylor hit a ground ball to shortstop and have the usually sure-handed C.J. Abrams boot the crap out of it. Vientos doesn't get that hit. We don't even get the opportunity to see C.J. Abrams make an error like that. And when he makes that error, the combination of huge, monumental miscue in the middle of a game, and then the combination of Francisco Alvarez coming up, I went from really negative to very positive. Like, there was not a doubt in my mind Francisco Alvarez was going to come through with a base hit. And on the first pitch, just absolutely smoked the ball up the left field alley. You see Vientos score. You see Tyrone Taylor darting around the bases. He has such a knack for the big spot. He's got a little Piazza dramatics in him. He also has that power the opposite way, like Mike Piazza. Obviously, one of the big differences is that Francisco is a hell of a quarterback back there, which, no offense to Mike, he was not. I'm not putting him in the same class of Piazza. They are very different. But just in terms of him finding the knack for the big moment, which he's had since he's come up to the major leagues. And then also that just raw power he has to right field. Incredible. Incredible moment. But even after he gets that 2-run double, I think we all know deep down they're going to have to score more runs. They're not winning this game 3-2. Not with this freaking bullpen. Like, does anybody out there really think after Alvarez got the hit, knowing they still needed to get 12 outs, maybe a few more from David Peterson, which they were able to get, that was going to be enough? No way, no how. And look, again, major credit to David Peterson, because not only did he have that little sequence of retiring 11 in a row, he does it right after the Mets give him the 3 runs. We call that a shutdown inning. We call that the anti-Tommy Glavine. And not only does David Peterson deliver a shutdown inning, he does it without barely breaking a sweat. He throws 7 pitches. Just really good, solid performance by David Peterson, who has earned remaining in this rotation. I'll give him that. Look, his last start against the Yankees, it wasn't a bad start, and he showed a lot of guts getting out of that early jam that he got out of, bases loaded, nobody out. But what was disappointing about that start, and I mentioned it on the drive home that night, even though I was very preoccupied with other things going on, is that you got to go more than 4 1/3. You got to go deeper into games. Like, one of the ways, at least I'm going to judge starting pitching on this Met team right now, is not just the runs allowed. Of course, that matters. Of course, that's very important. But how deep in a game can you go? Like, would you rather have 4 1/3 innings, 1 run, or 6 2/3 innings, 2 runs? I mean, to me, pitch into the 7th inning. Look, if that's not enough because your offense can't score, then you lost because of your offense. And that's the way I looked at this game until the Mets actually scored runs. Like, if the Mets didn't score runs, I wasn't going to look at David Peterson's 2 runs he gave up in the 3rd inning and say, gee, he sucked. It was going to be the offense didn't do enough. And in this case, David Peterson pitching into the 7th inning. And look, he could have kept going. And that's the other thing we need to touch on. He's at 86 pitches, and he gives up an infield hit to Keibert Ruiz. Want to give him another batter, Carlos? Do you want to say to yourself, you know what? I don't have a great bullpen. I know I've got Dednell Nunez warming up, but think about it this way. Even though right now Dednell Nunez is probably the guy Met fans have most confidence in and Mendy has most confidence in, and he's earned that, the more you get out of David Peterson, the later you can go to Dednell Nunez. It's not as if you're not going to go to Nunez to get big outs, but the more you can get from David Peterson, the less you're going to need from this bullpen. So, honestly, I didn't love that he was in such a rush after a cheap little infield hit to take David Peterson out of the game, especially with a pitch count that was reasonable. The pitch count was not the issue. So ask yourself, why is he coming out of the game? You go to the righty in Nunez, you know that Davey Martinez has lefties on the bench, including Luis Garcia and Jesse Winker. Now, Nunez did the job, and he got through the 7th inning. That isn't the issue at hand. The issue at hand is, do you try to get more out of your starters? To me, I would have. Now, as far as what happened in that 8th inning, you get the first 2 outs, and I love Dednell Nunez, tough to kill him. You cannot walk Jesse Winker, and he did. The base on ball always seems to kill this team. And then Joey Meneses hits just a little fly ball to right field. It should be a base hit. We're looking at probably 1st and 3rd 2 outs with Vargas coming up. And now a big moment for Nunez. And I don't know what the hell Tyrone Taylor was doing. You know what that play sort of reminded me of? That Brewer Nationals wild card game from 2019. Juan Soto got a base hit off Josh Hader. I think it was going to tie the game or give him the lead or something like that. And it went right past the right fielder. Went right under the right fielder, and the bases were cleared. And at that moment, you knew, okay, the Nationals are going to win this wild card game. Just a bad play by Tyrone Taylor, who usually gives you sturdy defense in right field. And that felt like a killer. You have a 3-2 lead. Nunez hasn't given up the back-breaking hit. He gives up a little blooper to right field. It shouldn't be the end of the world. And Tyrone Taylor turns it into basically the game being tied. And luckily, for whatever reason, Eldelmo Vargas had his head up his ass, and he tried to lay down a bunt. Great. Nunez made the throw. Alonso made the great scoop, and they got through the 8th inning. So overall, I thought Dednell Nunez pitched well, but Tyrone Taylor's defense absolutely ruined it. The Met bats looked dead after that, though. They did nothing in the 8th inning. They did nothing in the 9th inning. They go to Jake Diekman for the 9th inning, and the first batter is James Wood, and the national fans did a great job welcoming him to the major leagues. He's obviously their prized prospect. Good for him. Good for them. Good for his family. I got no ill will towards James Wood. We will eventually hate James Wood because he's a national. And if he's great, he's probably going to haunt our dreams at some point. But he hits that little roller to first base. And as Diekman is throwing it towards first base, I had these horrible visions in my mind. And honestly, the first vision I had was him basically destroying Pete Alonso's career, Cliff Floyd style, with a throw that's going into the freaking runner. I'm almost glad Alonso didn't make the play because there was a chance the big James Wood was just going to rip Alonso's arm off as he's running towards first base. But an absolutely abysmal defensive play by Jake Diekman. Runner on second, nobody out, bottom of the 9th. We all thought they were dead. I mean, there's not a Met fan breathing that honestly said, oh, no, we're good. We got this figured out. I mean, luckily, Keibert Ruiz swung at the first pitch and had a roll at third base, which is so stupid. Again, in that moment, runner on second, nobody out. You got Luis Garcia, who had come into the game and is better than your normal 8th place hitter. You got Jacob Young, who's actually a pretty damn good player coming up. How you not laying down a bunt? But hey, I ain't complaining. The Nationals being dumb ain't my problem. We take advantage of it. And Diekman got that ground out, got a ground out of Luis Garcia, and then Jacob Young hits a ball that, I mean, if Tyrone Taylor lets that ball go over his head, this game would affectionately be known as the Tyrone Taylor game. But he's able to make that play and get it to extra innings. My God, what a whirlwind in that bottom of the 9th inning. And then J.D. Martinez, and kudos to J.D. because he has been struggling for a couple of games in a row. I think he was 0 for his last 11 or 12. He had drawn a few walks mixed in. He had the big strikeout on Sunday, which was a killer in extra innings. But again, behind in the count, hits the bomb to center field to give the Mets a 3-run lead. Then Tyrone Taylor rips a double. Then Francisco Alvarez rips a triple. And all of this coming with 2 outs and nobody on. Keep that in mind. The Mets are up by 3 runs with 2 outs and nobody on. And it feels like, all right, we got a good chance to win. Reed Garrett's going to come in. And who knows how the inning goes if Reed Garrett comes in instead of messing around with Tyler J. I mean, it's possible Reed Garrett comes in and it's a clean 9th inning or clean 10th inning, I should say. But knowing how things played out, how important was that Tyrone Taylor double? How important was that Francisco Alvarez RBI triple? How important was the Jose Iglesias home run? Every run mattered. And I'm mixed about this because I have said in the past that when you have a big lead and you're relying on such few guys in your bullpen, you have to find a way to steal an inning here or there. So I really have to be honest, like Tyler J's up here. I don't have a problem with him pitching to start the 10th inning with a 6-run lead. That wasn't my issue. I think that once he runs into trouble, you have to be careful. You can't just keep him out there as long as Mendy did. Like the leadoff walk to C.J. Abrams puts me on high alert. And I think at that point, I have Reed Garrett warming up, and my attitude is, look, I can't let this get away. Remember, there's already 2 guys on base when you issue a walk. So you're only a few base runners away from getting the tying run to the plate. And you can't have that happen. You cannot lose this game. So after he strikes out Lane Thomas, okay, I still have Reed Garrett warming up. When Winker hits the RBI double, I got to be honest with you, at that point, I'm taking him out. He's faced the 3 batters. 2 of them have gotten on base. He's thrown a crap ton of pitches because that first at-bat to Abrams was a 9-pitch at-bat. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? At 9-4, with a runner on second and 1 out, why even mess around? Like, I get it. The Mets have a long stretch here where they do not have an off day. And they don't have a lot of guys in that circle of trust. And I'm good with trying to steal outs. But at that point, I'm done stealing. I'm trying to win the freaking game. He strikes out Joey Meneses. Great. That's fine. You want to keep him in the game after that? Sure. You're 1 out away. Once he gives up the 2-run double to Eldelmo Vargas, get his tuchus out of the game. What are we doing? Because it's lefty. Stop it. Either way, they hold on. Thank God. Now let's get to Brandon Nimmo. I am on vacation. And when I'm on vacation, I watch every Met game, but I am not connected to the news the way I am when we're doing a show. So when I found out the news about iHeart signing with the Thunder, it was a lot more casual, came by a text message. I'm certainly not refreshing Twitter every 5 seconds. So I sit down. I'm going to score the Met game. It's my one time to be involved in sports on vacation. And I'm like, where the hell's Brandon Nimmo? Like, what's going on? Why is he not in the lineup? At first, I'm thinking, are they giving him an off day against Mackenzie Gore? Then I see a text message from my dad, and I'll read it to you. And he says, hold on. Did you see what happened to Nimmo? I'm like, did I see what happened to Brandon Nimmo? Then I go back and I see another text message. This comes from the Mets text chat. Brandon Nimmo slipped in his hotel room last night and got a gash on his head. He was hospitalized until about an hour ago, but doesn't have a concussion. And I'm like, what? That doesn't even sound right. So, Hoff, help me out on this. What happened to Brandon Nimmo? He fell in his bathroom. He tripped? Like, what the hell? What happened to Brandon Nimmo?
So what happened was, in his explanation, he kind of got crampy in the middle of the night. And when he got up, he said that his heart rate is so slow, like his heart beat so slow that when he got up, his whole body kind of like went overboard. And when he went to the bathroom, like he was clearly having some sort of stomach issue, and he was going back and forth to the bathroom, the toilet. And he said when he went the last time to go to the bathroom, he just blacked out. And in that time, he passed out, hit his head, dude.
That is scary, man. If it's not Brandon Nimmo, can we all have an honest conversation for a second? Brandon Nimmo is such a good guy. He's a religious guy. He's got a great reputation. But if this is anybody but Brandon Nimmo, aren't we calling BS on this story? Am I wrong to say that?
Yeah, and that's why that's why he was like, we didn't drink, we didn't go out, we didn't do anything, I swear. Yeah, and it's like, oh, dude, you were effed up. You were definitely doing something stupid.
I hate to pick out anyone else. I'll pick on my buddy Pete Alonso, I guess. If Pete Alonso came in with this story, would we not all say you're full of crap, you were wasted last night? Like that would be our response. But because Brandon Nimmo, to his credit, has such a sterling reputation, he's a deeply religious guy, we're all going to take this story and say, whatever you say, Brandon. Okay, whatever you say, sure, that happened. And maybe it did. I have no idea. It probably did. I'm going to choose to believe Brandon Nimmo. But I am going to point out that if it was any other person but Brandon Nimmo, we're all a little skeptical. We're all a little, what the hell's going on? Either way, I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad he made it to the game. I'm glad he was able to get a nap. I'm glad that him not playing didn't necessarily cost them the game. And hopefully he's back in the lineup Tuesday night when the Mets play game 2 of this series against the Washington Nationals. A game I'll be in the building for. Let's go. A little disappointed it's not Christian Scott. Sean Manaea is starting the Tuesday game. Christian Scott is starting the Wednesday game. I also hope that Tyler J and Matt Festa can get sent down and DFA'd and we can get 2 more fresh arms up here. Because have we not seen enough of Matt Festa and Tyler J in each of their 1 performances? Like, it was all right. Now, I know one of them's gone for Christian Scott, but can we get other relievers to go through up here? In the meantime, it'll be fascinating to see what David Stearns does to address this during the lead up to the trade deadline, because it is July 1st and July 2nd now. So we are in the month of July. I think it's fair now to start at least thinking about the upcoming trade deadline a few weeks away.
Listen, I this bullpen is in shambles right now. We know. Thank God we won today. Edwin Diaz has really thrown a wrench in this whole situation with the suspension. It's really ridiculous. But before we go any further, I'm not sure if you're about to wrap it up, but I do want to get to one voicemail because I think it kind of encompasses everything about our thoughts and feelings for today, if that's okay.
Let's hear it, baby.
Evan, Pete, Bruce from San Antonio. It's Monday. We win 9-7, back to 500. Mindy, have you ever heard of no doubles defense? My God, that's painful. Good job, guys. See you later.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. By the way, anybody can leave a voicemail for us. What's our number again? 725-222-8699. I've mentioned that we have an emailer named Negative Dan. I got an email from a guy who wants to be Positive Ron. Positive Ron says the OMG concert was fun. The players were enjoying themselves, and so was the fans. This is baseball. Have some fun with it. McDonald's and OMG are rally cries. Embrace it. Is Grimace that much worse than a rally monkey? The Mets turned a season that we thought was dead in the water into a wild card run. That never happens to us. A month and a half, the fans turned the Mets out. Now they're exciting in the playoff race. Even if we don't win the wild card, we will remember this season coming back from 11 games under. Wild fun season is on. Let's go Mets. I will disagree with you about one thing. While this has been fun, it's been a nice month. I don't think anymore, for two reasons. In the Steve Cohen era and the 3 wildcard era, I don't think you can have a regular season in which you miss the playoffs that anybody as a Met fan can deem, well, that was fun and rewarding. I think you could have done that in the past, but I think A, the expectations of an owner that spends a lot of money, and then B, the playoff format that we have, I don't think so, man. Like I'm a positive guy and I've enjoyed the last month, but dude, I think we're past that as baseball fans and Met fans in this town to ever look at a season that doesn't at least involve making the playoffs and say, gee, golly, that was great.
Well, but all right. So I started my show on Saturday morning, which I do 2 to 6 in the morning on WFAN. I started my show saying that the Mets are winning the World Series this year. And let me just explain why I said that. Because in 2015, I did not believe that that was a real team. I didn't think that that team actually had a chance of going anywhere. And I don't want to miss that. I didn't get to really enjoy that whole second half of the season or the whole season in general. The Cespedes stuff was nice. Now I want to be able to enjoy it. So, like, I'm taking these wins and saying something is special going on, and let's see how far it goes. And I hope this is the team that takes us to get us a ring. And I'm gonna buy into it, and I'm gonna go and listen. If we get stung, we miss the playoffs. That's on me. But dude, I'm gonna believe in this team now because I feel like I have to.
Well, I mean, I believe that they like each other. I believe they enjoy Jose Iglesias' music, and I do believe that the vibes are very good, which is nice. But this is a flawed baseball team. Now, the good news is flawed baseball teams can go to the World Series. Flawed baseball teams can go to the playoffs. Flawed baseball teams can do a lot of magical stuff. But right now, watching this team every day, and they're back at 500, and hopefully they can get above 500 and stay there for the remainder of the season. And hopefully David Stearns can add some kind of reinforcement specifically to this bullpen. But what we are watching every day, while a lot of fun, is a very flawed baseball team. That's what they are. And that's okay. All right. They're not a perfect team. They ain't the Philadelphia Phillies, but right now they are at 500 and they're right in the mix of a wild card race. And thank God they won this game. Because if they didn't win this game, I'm telling you, and I would have done the Rico. I texted Pete about an hour before this game ended. I said, hey, I'm in town. I'm back home. This is an interesting game. We're going to Rico the crap out of this after the game. Win or loss. I can tell you right now, if they had lost this game for any of the reasons we laid out earlier in the pod, the tone would be far different. Now, we will give you a Rico Tuesday. I don't know how this Rico is going to go, but me and my family are heading out to Mets Nationals on our way to Raleigh, North Carolina, if we're being honest. We're going to North Carolina. D.C. is a nice little respite stop. and we're seeing the Mets take on the Washington Nationals, and we will be experimenting with a walk-home podcast, walk to the hotel podcast. So that may go incredibly bad because it's very awkward. Like, I'm going to hold my phone and give some thoughts on the Mets and the game while people look at me like I've got 35 heads. But you know what? It's DC. It's a weird, weird place.
See, what you should do is you should let Jet hold the phone and he should film you as you're walking.
That's a good idea.
I think that's more charismatic.
I think I like that. Jet, hey, I got a question. When we leave the Nationals Mets game on Tuesday night, can you hold my phone at me and I'm going to do a Rico as we leave the stadium and go to the hotel? Okay. He gave me a okay.
Confused.
Do you think that's a good idea, Jet, or no? No. He says it's not a good idea. Maybe we'll reconsider doing it then.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll maybe talk to you tomorrow. It's a possibility. But thank you very much for listening, downloading, and subscribing to another edition, a happy edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.